Is with us his proposed budget for the next fiscal year and why he believes it will alleviate the city's financial pressures. I'm Ernie Manouse.
And I'm guest host Katharine Shilcutt.
And as always, we want to hear from you. Do you have a comment or a question for the mayor? Give us a call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
And you can also watch us and chat with us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
All that and more right here on Hello Houston after the news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. President Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping met in Beijing today. They discussed the war in Iran, global trade, and energy security. But as NPR's Tamara Keith reports, so far the talks between the two leaders haven't yielded any significant progress.
On Thursday, Trump and Xi held a bilateral meeting that for a time included CEOs from top U.S. corporations. Then in the evening at a formal banquet, the two leaders toasted each other and the relationship between their nations. Trump made clear he wants this visit to be the start of a longer dialogue.
Tonight it is my honor to extend an invitation to you and Madam Peng to visit us at the White House this September 24th.
Before Trump heads to the airport, the leaders are set to take a friendship photo and share a bilateral tea and lunch. No deals have been announced yet, but there's still time. Tamara Keith, NPR News, Beijing.
Israel is continuing attacks in Lebanon as Israeli and Lebanese diplomats head into a new round of peace talks in Washington today. NPR's Jana Raff reports Israeli attacks near Beirut yesterday left at least 22 people dead.
Israel issued new warnings that it could attack more villages in southern Lebanon and the Bekaa Valley. Peace talks are expected to discuss a U.S.-brokered ceasefire in place since April 17th. Despite the ceasefire, the aid group Save the Children says an average of 4 children a day have been killed or wounded in Israeli strikes since then.
NPR's Jana Raff reporting. Closing arguments begin today in California in the federal civil trial brought by billionaire Elon Musk against OpenAI and the company's CEO, Sam Altman. Musk accuses OpenAI and Altman of betraying the company's founding principles, ones Altman helped to establish. Rachel Myro with member station KQED reports.
After 3 weeks of testimony wrapped, the judge told the jury all the pieces of the puzzle are now in the box. The puzzle Elon Musk wants them to solve: did his fellow OpenAI co-founders abandon their duty to the nonprofit's mission while making themselves billionaires? Musk brought the lawsuit against OpenAI CEO Sam Altman and other co-founders, saying they stole a charity. They say they saved it. What this case doesn't address is that Musk just folded his own AI company, xAI, into SpaceX ahead of what could be the biggest IPO in history, and OpenAI is eyeing a public offering of its own at a similarly high valuation. For NPR News, I'm Rachel Myro.
Stocks are trading higher on Wall Street at this hour. The Dow is up 357 points at 50,050. This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. Former Houston Mayor Annise Parker is leading former Houston City Council member Letitia Plummer by 18 percentage points among likely voters in the Democratic primary runoff for Harris County Judge. That's the finding of a new survey by the University of Houston's Hobby School of Public Affairs from just a few hours ago. Mark Jones of Rice University's Baker Institute co-authored the survey.
Harris County is a light blue county, meaning the Democrats start off an average election year with a modest advantage over Republicans. When you combine that with Donald Trump's low approval ratings, this is likely to be a very good year for Democrats in Harris County.
The poll shows Parker leading Plummer among whites and Latinos, as well as among voters with a 4-year college degree, while Plummer leads among black voters. Houston City Council has approved spending $350,000 on AI-powered cameras that will be used to manage traffic during the World Cup. The cameras will be installed along the Alameda corridor, which runs right in the middle of the location where all the World Cup fan festivities are going to be held. Multiple outlets report the cameras are going to adapt traffic lights based on real-time traffic. Some city council members have expressed concerns over privacy issues that could cause around 500,000 visitors are expected to attend the World Cup and generate around $1.5 billion of extra income around the city. Taking a look at sports, well, it took 10 innings, but the Astros finally beat the Seattle Mariners 4-3 last night. Mariners wrap up their visit to Houston this afternoon at 1:10. And checking your weather. It's going to be sunny, 92 the expected high today. We do have an air quality alert that is in effect for high ozone, so watch it out there. Otherwise, tonight's going to be partly cloudy with an overnight low of 71 degrees. Right now, hazy 80 degrees on the UH campus. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance with Snapshot, a personalized program that bases rates on safe driving habits, at Progressive.com. Not available in California or from all agents. This is NPR.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston.
Westview.
And we are with you today. I'm Ernie Manouse. Sitting in with me is the wonder Katharine Shilcutt. Hello there, Katharine.
Hello again, Ernie.
It was good. We had you here yesterday. We have you back here again today.
I'm so excited to be here with both of y'all, honestly. This
Both?
is such
Who
a pleasure.
is she referring to?
I
Well,
don't know.
we usually go into the headlines. We chit-chat at the top, but we have an important guest with us today, so we're going to get right into it. Last week, the Houston Mayor John Whitmire unveiled a proposed budget for the next fiscal year, pitching it as a way to help the city avoid a major financial shortfall. To tell us more about this budget and what it will actually accomplish, we welcome back to the program Mayor Whitmire. Hello
Thank
there,
you.
sir.
Thank you, and Katharine. It's a pleasure to be here and have an opportunity to visit with your listeners.
And if you'd like to visit with the mayor, it's easy to do. 713-440-8870. You can call or text us or email your questions at talk@hellohouston.org. All right, Mr. Mayor, we'll start right off with it. A lot of attention has been brought to this. The first thing that everyone thinks about when they hear about this budget is the garbage fee.
Well, first of all, it's an administrative fee, and I can document that. $5 is not a garbage fee. It's an administrative fee, partly required by the state. If you're going to make a city service a utility, you must charge them for that service, that being solid waste. Also, it's been recommended in studies, a lot of misinformation, and I think one editorial said correctly that this is a small piece of the financial foundation that we're building. Mostly it's a consolidation of solid waste into public works, where it was until the mid-90s, and it's gone steadily downhill. And it's one of our challenges. Actually, it's improved greatly when we changed directors about 4 months ago, but it still needs some more efficiencies. There's a lot of issues from the past, like we have 5 transfer stations, only 2 of them work. Mm-hmm. Our recycling transaction is handled by a group out of Spain that is difficult to hold accountable, but Public Works has a can-do attitude. Consolidating them will save millions of dollars, $116 million. And then you go to the next step, making the water utility pay a rider fee to the city of Houston, which all cities do, gains $104 million. So we pretty much wipe out our shortfall, following the models of other cities. And I can address our critics and misinformation at some stage, but this has been discussed for years, certainly in the Turner administration, but he got fortunate and got ARPA money, COVID funding, which funded, sadly, ongoing expenses. Should have been used for one-time expenses, but this is the present time. I inherited a $160 million shortfall 2.5 years ago. The first budget was pretty much Turner's budget, funded with ARPA money. Then last year, after an Ernst & Young report, we did it through efficiencies. We offered, the report showed we had more employees per capita than any other major city. So we went and gave an incentive, 3 months pay, freeze your health care costs. We had 1,056 people accept that. That and other efficiencies we paid off our debt. The problem is, as you have observed for years, Houston's had a financial systemic shortfall as long as I can remember, and I grew up here. Bob Lanier got $500 million from Metro. Other mayors laid people off, sold city properties, and we're committed to not kicking the can down the road. This proposal, which has widespread support, diverse support from Acres Home to the West Side, LGBTQ plus chamber, and 13 council members. So it's Houston Partnership, AFL-CIO. This is not my budget. This is our community's budget.
Let me ask you this. Are we wrong when we look at it as a revenue generator, this fee, or is it more of a shift in how we approach the way we fund these things?
That's a good question. No doubt the $5 million administration fee will bring in $24 million. We have a study that says it should be up to 25, but I'm concerned about Houstonians' affordability. And I'm committed to get the efficiencies in solid waste and a noted improvement before we move toward a garbage fee, which will have to be approved by council with exemptions considered for seniors, veterans, and other considerations. No, the major part of this proposal been talked about, and I'll show you in a minute what the other cities are doing. And other cities are not necessarily my model because some of them do things we don't want to model after, but certainly making their solid waste a utility and charging a right-of-way fee. I've got a proposal that the controller made last October to the Finance Committee. You don't have to take my word about it. The controller was for it before he was against it. And so I'll leave it with y'all to study, but all the proposals I thought he was going to accuse me of copying his proposals. No. He's addressing his name ID. It's unfortunate to play politics with people's lives, but there's a study that, quite frankly, we took serious and made tough decisions. I've got an outstanding finance director. There's emails going back to 2019 that the city should have considered this. Other cities are doing it. It creates a foundation for financial security. Now, it's not the final thing we need to do, but you can't go for property taxes like Mr. Hollins and others are recommending, because you got to build confidence in the public that you're using your money wisely. I inherited a city that has inefficiencies, conflicts of interest, corruption. You want to talk about Midtown TERS that I inherited? The city had to take over 400 pieces of property, lots that had been bought by the TERS for $50 million, supposed to be using it for affordable housing. No, the CEO has pled guilty, waiting to be sentenced. And I can go around the city and show you where efficiencies, conflicts, the housing authority, Middle Street, which should have never been built on an environmentally dangerous site. They spent $120 million there. 400 families could have lived there and will, after we got a clearance from the state that it was a safe environmentally site. But I can go on. So we've worked hard. We're paving 1,000 miles this year.
Yeah.
Houstonians are noticing it. $500 million for drainage and roads. I inherited 1,900 broken water mains. Now it's 100. We were wasting more water than Fort Worth uses in a whole year. So I'm excited to be here, talk about the budget more, but it's widely supported across Houston.
I want to go back to the fee again just for a minute at the top here.
Sure.
And the $5 that people would pay into this.
Sure.
I want to go back to are you looking at it as a revenue generator?
It
Because
is a package, Ernie.
Okay.
It's a package. It itself does not make up the shortfall. We've got to have structural financial changes how we run this city. And we need to charge the same operational fees that other cities have been doing for years. Austin charges its power company and water a fee. San Antonio, it's water. Dallas, I can demonstrate. So it was probably should have been done a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And this year we got very aggressive about not kicking the can down the road. I committed not to kick the can down the road. But, you know, you want to ask again, is it a revenue source? No, it's to cover the transition. It's to cover, in fact, the study that is referenced by some of our friends says that it should have been $6.50. I'm concerned about affordability. I think $5 is a reasonable amount when you look at the benefits of being able to consolidate public works and solid waste. You have to charge solid waste a fee by state law. You can't provide a free service by the city of Houston.
What happens for folks who, even at $5, it's unaffordable? They can't do it, or they choose not to pay for it. Does garbage back up in these neighborhoods, and we have a bigger problem?
Because we are aggressively improving city services. We monitor the calls to City Hall. Rarely are we getting the volume of calls about solid waste. Public Works is already over there working.
Mm-hmm.
We've got new equipment. We've got a different leadership. Just to give you an example, Wednesday was the day off by the director in solid waste. Unbelievable. That was to create overtime for those that would go ahead and go work. It was a huge conflict of interest. If someone doesn't have the resources to pay the $5, I think they need to speak up. They need to talk to their family, their friends, but, you know, for the service they're getting.
Mm-hmm.
And we have serious challenges with heavy trash. And, of course, someday we want to be able to eliminate illegal dumping. And this will be a consideration as we go forward. One, we've got to enforce penalties against illegal dumping. HPD is placing video cameras in our neighborhoods that are redundantly suffering from illegal dumping. They're getting license plates. The DA's taking the charges. So there are a lot of moving parts. But the financial, I'm sorry if someone can't afford the $5.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask this.
But their service is not going to be denied, of course.
And, of course, you understand this much better than I do. You've been knee-deep in it for a bit now. You move this service over, and we have the $5 fee.
Yeah.
The $5 fee, as you're saying, and as we've heard, doesn't cover the actual cost of it. It's not a cost onto the person for the service they're getting, but the fee there.
Sure.
How then and is it water that then takes on this responsibility in their department? How does that money then get paid? How
the
do
water
they balance
fund is sitting on $1.3 billion.
Okay.
Due to the consent agreement with the federal government. And the water rate increases 7% April 1st, long before I got there. So that fund continues to grow and grow. There is a resource, a fund already paid for by citizens of Houston, and we're going to put it to good use. It does not endanger the fund. It's growing. It doesn't interfere with any ongoing projects. We've taken all this in consideration. Let me just tell you, do you really think I'd have the support for this budget across Houston, diverse entities and organizations, if it wasn't sound and financial secure?
Well, I will say one of the criticism about it is that some folks feel like they don't know the full picture, and that's why you're here today. So that's what we're giving.
It's
right.
complex.
Help us understand.
We've had 80 briefings. We read AFL-CIO last night. Over 80. I got 13 council members that have been briefed, stood with me in support.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the critics are the ones that can't get over the last election. And they don't like anything I do. Name me one thing that some of our critics think I do. We're paving 1,000 roads this year. $500 million for drainage, the most ever. Our HPD personnel, all-time high, 5,400 police officers, 800 new since I got sworn in. Fire the same way, 600 new firefighters. Response times for those departments has never been better. Morale's never been better. So Houstonians sense that we're going in the right direction. Critics are critics. I understand. I've been at this a long time, but it's just unfortunate that they play with people's lives on sound financial footing. And so any increases in the administrative fee, if we want to move into calling it a garbage fee, will be voted on by council. So there's safeguards there.
The administrative fee will stay at $5, and that if an increase came, that would be a garbage fee on top of it. Am I understanding you correctly?
I'm very transparent. There is no question that the $5 is administrative fee, short of what the study that people like to refer to recommended. I'm sensitive to the dilemma that you mentioned. Some people just won't have $5. So we kept it at $5 and not the $6.50. The actual cost, now, Mr. Hollins was saying, no, it's $35 and $40. He didn't read the report. The report says with the efficiencies that we've already taken, the actual cost of service is about $24. Council will have to decide going forward, does it make sense? Have we improved the service to the degree that we could ask for a garbage fee? That'll be determined by Houstonians.
And I know folks are concerned about the improvement of service. So what do you have planned to improve that, and how does that come along if it's just a $5 service fee or administrative fee right now? How are we improving garbage trash pickup without incurring more cost?
Well, it's already improved, partly with a new director. I kept the previous director, and he fooled me. I thought he was genuine. I would ride the streets with him, and he says, and there would be a pile, and he said, oh, well, that's been there, just got there because there's no grass growing around it. I mean, I was listening to the guy, but soon I realized he was not the real deal. So we brought in Mr. Hassan. He's making a difference. The city bought used trucks before I got there. They stayed in the shop. So now we have new trucks, new director, and Public Works is a can-do operation. Randy Maka, the director, is the one fixing all the drainage and all the streets, and they've already started working together. Public Works has resources, trucks, and other resources. So there is already a noticeable difference. And could I have gone ahead forward? It would have been a challenge because we need to consolidate them and do these transactions that even you won't focus on. It's to make the solid waste a utility, which it is in all the other major cities, and we will charge them 5% of their gross revenue of the water fund to go, and that wipes out the $104 million shortfall. And then when you start charging a right-of-way fee to the utilities, just like you do Comcast or other AT&T, we will raise other monies, $100 million, to wipe out the shortfall.
Last thing on this before we take a quick break, I'm just curious, is there opportunity for you and the comptroller to meet and talk on this thing? Is that how
I've tried to help him
works?
to learn how to govern. He hired the city financial director on a Friday before I was sworn in on Monday. That's the gentleman that is so familiar with city finances. We've networked with him, we've talked with him, but somebody's got to want to learn how to govern to be able to talk. I have no personal ill will. He was in the mayor's race for about 2 months before he got out, and I know he's unhappy, but I will help the citizens of Houston by working with anyone across the aisle, within my party, within City Hall. I just ran to fix things. That's the only reason I'm here. I was not looking for this job. I'm not trying to start a political career. I've had a distinguished political career. Houstonians asked me to come back and run for mayor. It was a tough decision, very tough. I was getting things done in the Senate. Last session, I created a funding mechanism from the state to double the size of the George Brown Convention Center. If you haven't seen it, you need to drive by. Moved murder cases to the front of the backlog at the county. So we were getting things done, but I grew up in Houston. The streets and infrastructure doesn't have to be in this shape. Public safety does not have to be such a concern of Houstonians. And we're moving in the right direction. I feel it as a Houstonian, I hear it when I go out in public.
We're going to dig deeper. We have a lot more to deal with the mayor, to chat with him about, and to take your calls, questions, comments. And Katharine, I'll even let you talk some. I've kind of monopolized this. I apologize.
Sounds good.
We're going to take a break. There's more Hello Houston coming up right after this with Mayor John Whitmire. More to watch.
Meet Tio Choco. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. This is his story. Visit ridemetro.org/Choco to find out where is Choco.
Streaming around the clock. And PBS members get full access to past seasons with Passport. Search HPM Plus on your smart and connected TVs. It's all waiting for you
on HPM Plus.
Hey, it's Francis Lamb, host of The Splendid Table. This week, it's a live event on the food of Iowa. Bakers, chefs, restaurateurs, and maybe most importantly, farmers, all with surprising stories that may change how you think about the food of the heartland. It's coming up on The Splendid Table.
You can hear that Sunday afternoon at noon on News 88.7.
Want to binge All Creatures Great and Small? Catch up on Nova, or revisit Ken Burns documentaries? You can with PBS Passport. With a gift of $5 or more per month to Houston Public Media, you'll get access to PBS Passport that lets you watch your favorite programs anytime you want. Support the programs you love and enjoy them on your own schedule with PBS Passport. Make your gift now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
I'm Scott Tong, reporting this week in China, where my grandfather was arrested in Shanghai in the early 1950s after the communists came.
Everyone has an interesting story in China. Many of those stories involve trauma, and unfortunately, it's untreated.
A family story of the messiness of war and collaboration. Next time, Here and Now.
That begins at 1 this afternoon on News 88.7.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manouse and guest host Katharine Shilcutt.
Welcome back, y'all. We are here with City of Houston Mayor John Whitmire talking about the new proposed city budget. We would love for y'all to join the conversation. Please call or text us at 713-440-8870. Mayor Whitmire, as you said, this city has long been allergic to taxes and fees. So with something like this, it's a nominal fee, $5. But what should Houstonians start expecting to see in 6 months to a year once they start paying that fee?
Well, thank you, Katharine. They're already realizing the regular pickup of recycling, garbage. Heavy trash is a challenge. It's going to be partly an educational process. You can't evict someone like landlords do and put the entire house furniture on the curb. It ought to be truly heavy trash that Houston has a responsibility to handle. So that's an abuse. And, of course, illegal dumping, we need to penalize, hold people accountable, and also incentivize people to do it the right way. We're reviewing the charge of taking what has become illegal dumping, take it to the landfill. But part of the problem is, let's take recycling. The contract with this Spanish garbage business has one disposal in Houston. It's in Northeast. So if you're picking up recycling in Southwest Houston and you're loaded, you got to go to Northeast to unload it. We've got to do better and look at that. And we are examining that contract and looking for some escape or get them to do better. Also, our transfer stations. City owns 5, only 2 are operating, part of the infrastructure that was broken when I got here. We're going to repair that. And talking back to a possible garbage fee, we believe that if we repair and have 5 operating transfer stations across Houston, we can get Waste Management, BFI, to contract with us, pay us for those transfer stations. So there's just a lot of moving parts. That's part of the benefit of consolidating with Public Works. Public Works is in charge of our infrastructure, and so coming together, we will benefit. Now, you can't give a specific date. It's a process. It's an improvement. Improvement like the streets and the drainage since I got there. Improvement in the number of fire and police officers. Settlement of significant lawsuits like the firefighters had. Settlements of the Jones-Watson infrastructure lawsuit. That's all impacted the underfunding of city government. But I'm going to point to what we're looking at across the state, at what other cities, large cities, have done for years. Houston should have done it. All of this is also brought about because of the revenue cap. Since 2015, the city voted, and we've missed out on $1.5 billion in revenue. So the problem's been kicking the can down the road. Previous mayors laid people off. They sold city assets. Mayor Turner was very fortunate to get significant money from the federal government that was used for ongoing expenses. So we've had to absorb and deal with all those challenges. But we're doing it. We're very transparent. We've had over 80 public meetings and briefings. We've got over 30 letters of support from labor groups, city employees, Chamber of Commerce, the partnership. So I'm very excited, and people understand it if they'll just put the politics out in the hall and deal with the facts. And that's what we're doing. And I'm excited. And now, this is not a cure-all.
Sure.
It makes sure that we're balanced this year and for the next several years while we work. The real solution is, and I was with the Speaker of the Texas House and his delegation were in Houston yesterday, we need an urban initiative in this state. Having been in the legislature for 50 years, I've watched what we do for rural Texas. We've got the best farm-to-market road in the nation. We help rural Texas with brush control and water. Now it's time for the state to use some of their surplus from oil revenue to help fix, rebuild the infrastructure in the cities. And not just the cities of Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, Houston. College Station, Waco, Lubbock. Corpus Christi's got a severe water shortage come June 1st. They don't know what the hell they're going to do. So let's let the state of Texas realize the urban centers are where the people are. We do so much for the state. I told them, our port, the West Texas cotton that they grow comes through our port to be shipped to points across the ocean. Our med center, I have had so many calls when I was in the Senate from rural Texas, will you help my loved one get into MD Anderson? So, our NASA successes. So really the long-range goal to Houston's finances is get the state of Texas to recognize how Houston goes is how the state of Texas will go.
And rural or urban, we're all real Texans, right?
We're all in it together, I promise you.
Absolutely.
Mayor, let me ask you.
In fact, that's even for our region. We woke up this morning with 2.3 million Houstonians, but 700,000 people travel to Houston today. And they may buy something and contribute to our sales tax, but largely they come, work, and go home to the suburbs. But we have to provide them safety, EMS, and the infrastructure.
Let me ask you this. We focus a lot on this $5 administrative fee, and it seems like everyone's talking about that when they talk about your budget. What do you think are the points that we should also be looking at in this budget that help the city and your constituents understand what is in this and why it's the right move?
Well, it's the foundation of going forward. We're taking care of the shortfall, not cutting services. And we haven't even talked about the Parks Department or all the other health department and all the other needs of the state. The $5 fee, administrative fee to help with this transition will wipe out $104 million of the $209 million shortfall because we're going to make the utilities pay a right-of-way fee. San Antonio, and we're only doing it at 5% of their gross, which generates that $104 million. San Antonio charges their power and water 14%. Dallas, 20% of water. Austin, 12% energy. Water, 8%. They all do it, and it is a major revenue source that the Houston, certainly when they came under the revenue cap, should have looked at this as a viable option. We're charging 5% of the combined water utility, and the fund is not jeopardized. $1.3 billion has been paid by Houstonians. We're busy fixing the infrastructure. We're going to replace the East Side Water Plant, which is $5 billion. We're getting cooperation from the state and Washington to do that. And then making solid waste part of the enterprise fund, we will charge them a right-of-way fee, and that wraps out $116 million in savings. So what we've done without raising property taxes, balance our budget, we haven't laid off anyone, and the services are improving through efficiencies of the Ernst & Young report. Mm-hmm. So, these are tough calls. Tough calls. They're too tough to be politicized. There's going to be a time to campaign. But right now, let's just all come together, use the same data, and reach what is an honest conclusion. But this is not my proposal. Obviously, I'm the mayor, I'm the CEO, I'll be held accountable. But this is coming together of many, many hours of research, recommendations, council members. Sally Alcorn, one of our outstanding councilmen, chairman of finance, is supporting it. So, I think it's fair to say, why such support if it's flawed? It's not perfect, but it's transparent. We've built a coalition, and it'll only get better.
Are there areas where you feel personally you could have been more aggressive, but taking into consideration all of this information, you have settled where you have?
Well, we can always do better, but I'm working many days, 18 hours. I have outstanding department heads. There's 24 department heads. If you ask me what I'm most proud of, it's the team I've put in place. Mm-hmm. They're passionate, they're honest, they're efficient, and so across the city, we have excellent leadership in the departments. I've had to adjust several, and forgotten what their purpose was, is to improve Houston's lives. Could I have done better? We've been in 80 different briefings. We briefed each and every council member. We had a very transparent press conference. I will take responsibility for the proposal. Should have been done a long time ago, but I'm not worried about politics. It's not the reason I ran. But people are attacking it. I've listened to your show. This would be a fair question for y'all in the future. What is your plan? In fact, I'd even ask Ernie, what's your plan, or Kathy? But the elected officials that come in here and criticize ought to be asked if it's not fair to ask you. On other shows, they've said, well, we're not in the policy. We're not in the policy. We're just kind of the numbers person. That's a heck of a way to show leadership. Everybody ought to either accept a hard, transparent, successful plan endorsed by many people, or have an alternative plan of your own. And obviously, the idea of raising property taxes in this political environment with the economy in its status, and that's a non-starter. Austin tried to go for a property tax. My good friend I served in the Senate with, he wanted a 20% property tax increase 3 months ago, and it went down 63%. That is a major setback if they ever attempt again. My job is to build confidence in city government, and we're being successful. People know we're honest. We're holding people accountable. The streets are getting fixed. Garbage has improved, but we're fixing to take another positive step toward solid waste. But I could tell you about parks. I can talk about, we had the best spring ever in visitors to Houston, generating sales tax, jobs. FIFA will soon be in town. They tell us we're the best prepared city in the nation. I can't believe the negative stories about what it's going to cost Houstonians. No, it's bringing in sales tax, hotel occupancy tax. We're going to use that money to improve the infrastructure, make the city safer. I can go through the response times of HPD and the fire. They've all improved. Crime's down. Now, somebody will say, well, it's down across the nation. Correct. But the rest of the cities didn't have 260,000 suspended HPD cases that had not been opened. That happened my second month on the job. We had to take 80 officers off the street. investigate those cases, and many of them ended up being prosecuted. So let's talk about Bark, the animal shelter. It needs resources. It's exciting, and I haven't really discussed it because the plans are being drawn up, but we're going to put an adoption center right there across from the Fondy Center. Be a heck of an improvement for animal welfare. The health department. I got a doctor running the health department, and it's just amazing. In fact, she's aggressively doing inspections across the city, and there's some recent story about the gentleman from on Washington Avenue that ended up going to jail. He had no permits. TABC did an inspection, and you can't operate clubs without health and alcohol permits. We're enforcing those, and it's benefiting those communities.
We always invite our audience to call and join the conversation at 713-440-8870, but also to send in messages. The first one I'm going to do is a text that we got here, and it said, I appreciate the focus on fixing the deficit. As we work to balance the budget, what is your long-term plan to modernize our city services so we stay competitive and efficient?
One of the smartest things I've done, because we ran on efficiency and get rid of duplication, was after we got there, we saw we need professional help. So we hired Ernst & Young, and they did a very intense forensic audit and came back with recommendations. For instance, when the audit was done, we found out we have more employees than any other major city. So we did an incentive program, 1,056 people. We picked up significant savings there. Also, we found out our supervisors supervise 40% of our supervisors. Now, hear this out. 40% of our supervisors supervise 3 or fewer people. So we're on a regular path of looking for efficiency. That gets back to the directors I was bragging on a while ago. We got professional directors. Some came out of retirement. Mike Nichols is doing the Housing Authority. He was the director, CEO of the Homeless Coalition. He came out of retirement. People want to work for my administration because we're no nonsense and we're getting things done. And it's very, people ask me on a regular basis, are you having fun? I say, hell no, I'm not having fun, but I enjoy to use experience in relationships and see that it's improving Houston's quality of life, and people's work and living space is very enjoyable.
Is there an overall plan for the modernization of the city, or are we on that?
We're actively doing. We're paving, improving 1,000 miles this year. We'll do it next year. We're paving 125 blocks downtown. We got the homeless challenge. We're fixing to open our emancipation site about the 1st of June. Don't hold me to that exact date, but early June. That's going to be a major contribution of taking care of people's lives that are living on the street. It'll be holistic. There will be mental health. And I'm going to give a shout out to Harris Health. They're going to provide the health care there. We think in a given year about 700 people will be taken off the street, gone through there, help them with their mental health, drug and alcohol, get the workforce commission there. It'll be a holistic approach. Neighborhood concerns about public safety, HPD is using their space for their unit. 8 officers will be permanently stationed there. So it's just a lot of things we're doing that time doesn't allow us to talk about. But we're here. You know how we're solving things? Collaboration. The relationship between the county and the city's never been better, and the collaboration between Austin and Houston. We have to have state resources, federal resources. We've let them know that our East Side water plant furnishes the Ship Channel all of its water, and 60% of Houston is water. The Ship Channel furnishes and refines 90% of our nation's jet fuel, domestic and military. So we've got the attention of Washington. They're going to help us with billions of dollars to help build. Think about this. Has anybody in Houston ever been told the truth about an East Side water plant just this side of Galena Park was built in 1954? You want to know what keeps me up at night? Those pumps, because it furnishes the Med Center's water and 60% of Houston. So that's another reason why we've got to continue to have a strong financial foundation.
You mentioned that on our show when you were visiting us back at the rodeo about those pumps, and that has stayed with me. And I thought, wow, there's something we need to be focused on. What are we doing to make sure that if that goes down?
Well, we got $100 million from the state last session. We had the best legislative session in history for parks and also our infrastructure. So we're repairing with When I got there, it was baling wire and tape. We're doing serious upgrading of that water treatment plant and a wastewater treatment too, by the way. And we've got to replace it. It's about a $4 to $5 billion challenge, and so we got $100 million from the state for improved lift station. So because we're flat, we got to get the water to all parts of Houston. So we have to do it with lift stations, which are essentially pumps. So it's being improved, but it's a challenge because it's such a major operation.
You went to put those headphones on a second ago. Now you get to put them on. We're taking calls for the mayor of Houston,
Sure.
John Whitmire, who's with us at 713-440-8870. Up first is Sally from Montrose. Sally, what's on your mind?
Hi. I was just wondering the cost of taking down the bike trails, and I'm wondering why that was done.
Let me give you the history on that. Austin Street was being repaired for water and drainage. The neighborhood and the city council said, well, they've never functioned well, the bike lanes. They were two in opposite directions. That's a one-way street. So it was a danger. So while we were repairing the water, the bike lanes were taken up. The little stretch on Heights Boulevard was done much to my surprise because the armadillos were coming up and they leave about a 2-inch bolt on the street. So Public Works went out there and they were in such bad condition they took them up. But ma'am, I'm under pressure and I've resisted to repair and take up bike lanes on Blodgett, 11th Street, across the city. But I resisted because we're doing an intense, detailed study. Fire and police literally cannot go down some streets because of the bike lanes. We will do everything we can to assist the bikers. It's a part of our life. Allen Parkway, the Bayou Partnership, we're establishing north and south connections. But we don't have a bike removal program. Certainly, I sit here today and I can't think of a location where they've been removed. It's a beautiful day. I would hope people would use them, but that's part of the criticism. They just look seldom used. But, you know, mobility, options for mobility are important in the city of Houston. But I appreciate your question, but it's not a major cost because we're not doing it.
Thank you, Sally, for that. A question came in on our YouTube channel. What does the mayor think about high-speed rail in the Texas Triangle?
It should have been done in 1988 when I carried legislation. We went to Germany twice to look at their bullet train. But the highway contractors, at that time Southwest Airlines, blocked it, and I tried to argue with Southwest Airlines. You know, there's just so much airspace. This could actually complement it. Last week, Northwest Mall was torn down. That is still a prospect for a high-speed trail, high-speed rail. The problem is the legislature. Family farms are all the way between here and Dallas, and they don't want to give up their property rights. So the courts have backed them. But, folks, I mentioned a while ago, 700,000 people travel to Houston each day. We need commuter rail. We need our rail system to get to our airports. And we're actually looking at the feasibility of that. I mean, the North Line rail should not stop in North Line. It ought to move over, hit Hardy Toll Road, and head to Bush Airport. We're the only major city that does not have rapid rail between the airport and downtown. So that's part of the vision.
FIFA, a lot of talk about FIFA coming to town. I'm curious, when FIFA leaves town, what will have been improved for us?
Well, number one, we get significant revenue from the guests. Their hotel occupancy is going to be significantly increased. We'll have sales tax. We hotel occupancy tax. The legacy movement, FIFA wants something left behind. We're going to have 23 soccer fields, and most of them starting right there at Moody Park. Adrian Garcia, the commissioner in the city, we've partnered to see that fields are there. Also, I think it will reinforce the fact that we're an international city. We've become a destination city, there's no doubt. And with the doubling of George Brown, we're lining up conventions and meetings years in the future. So I think we've already demonstrated we can handle major events, Super Bowls, Final Fours. I think it's one more just branding of Houston as a can-do city. Everyone's welcome, our diversity, our cultures. It's just a hell of an opportunity to showcase Houston as a great city. And what's interesting, all the cities call themselves great, but I can document Houston is very special, it's great, and it's getting greater.
Briefly, back to the budget. The Houston Chronicle editorial board noted this week that it is a serious budget.
Sure.
But that it maybe hasn't been effectively communicated to the public. And I'm curious, what are your other avenues for doing that, for talking to the general public about it? Is this something you're going to discuss on your podcast?
We'll do that on the podcast, but I've mentioned we've already had 80 briefings. We've got 30 endorsements, and they're coming in daily by significant groups, the partnership, the chambers, AFL-CIO. You can just talk about it so much, and then you got a city to run. But we have an excellent team. The finance committee's holding hearings this morning. So, it's readily available. The hearings on it are held on HTV. So, I don't know what the Chronicle, I don't know why they mentioned I won't talk about it. I've never been short of wanting to talk about anything. And I welcome this opportunity, and we'll come back anytime. So that's just more ink, I guess. I don't know. No, I mean, good Lord.
Katharine mentions the podcast. That got a lot of attention. Your reactions to that.
More politics, but we're trying our best to keep Houstonians informed. All levels of government. I won't begin to tell you what the county spends on communications and podcasts. The $60,000 was for a salary. It's benefiting Houstonians. We've had in recent days the fire chief, the police chief, public works. They're getting back to our budget plan. So, it's just critics is all I could say. We're not wasting money because we don't have money to waste. But the podcast is a good investment in communicating with Houstonians.
Do you know offhand, did the podcast fee include marketing of it, production of it, editing of it, and all that? Was it a host fee? Was what?
It was a contract for the personnel. Totally. I invite you to City Hall. The city's invested in essentially a TV station down there that sits idle most of the time, and I raised Cain about it. We got to use it. So that was kind of the origin of the podcast. Well, if you want to use it, we need an anchor, and it's working out fine.
We had a text that came in. We voted for elected officials to make tough decisions, and I believe Whitmire is doing just that. Also, I just want to thank the mayor for ensuring his administration is reflective of Houston. Great job on that.
Isn't that interesting? I appreciate that comment. Our campaign to make Houston City Hall look like Houston. So we got 2-3 directors, Asian Americans, Hispanics, I can go through, African Americans. You got an Anglo mayor. No, it's very diverse, and I'm proud of that. And they're very competent, and it's we're moving in the right direction. I would not tell y'all. I'd be the first one to come in here and say I'm disappointed. Houston is going in the right direction. Public safety was my highest priority. You can check that box with the additional cadets, fire and police. We're not where we want to be. I was robbed at gunpoint. The response time for Code 1 right now, the most serious calls, is 5.6 minutes. I've been robbed at gunpoint in my garage. A minute matters. So we're going to steadily improve, but I'm proud of the 2 chiefs. Mm-hmm. I think infrastructure now is right below public safety as people's concern. It's improving. In fact, now people are complaining about the congestion when you go to redo a street. But, it's just, I'm excited, proud to be the mayor of the city of Houston. And now I understand I inherited a lot of neglect, and it wasn't just the previous administration. It goes way, way back. Houston we don't have zoning. So, I hear a lot of concerns about the conditions of the neighborhood. And, it may be at some point in time to have a grown-up discussion about that. But, some would argue that's what makes Houston so special. It's allowed development. But, You know, we are really being challenged by our transportation. I think Metro needs to go through an Ernst & Young review. Since 2019, hear me out, they've not improved their service routes at all. No increase in service routes. They've hired 750 people at Metro since 2019. We need to scrub it, make sure they build things that people will use, and hold people accountable.
Another question came in on YouTube. How much money would raising the property tax rate up to the cap actually raise?
About $50 million. And we could have done it after Hurricane Beryl. The county certainly did it, following the statute. I'm committed not to raise property taxes until we can demonstrate that we're using the monies that we currently have wisely. There's a lot of cynicism, and I agree with citizens about how you're using their funding. We still see waste. Mm-hmm. We see duplication. We see conflicts of interest. We're cleaning all that up. But we're taking care of the needs and building a foundation today. At some point, we will go and ask Houstonians, what kind of city you want to live in? You know, green space, public health, infrastructure, public safety. And then we can make a decision. But it would be foolish to try to get property taxes right now, even if they're allowed, because of the affordability issue. You know, you asked me, what if somebody can't pay a $5 administrative fee? What about an increase in property taxes? You pay property taxes whether you make any money or not. And we don't like property taxes because all of our appraisals, we believe, are unfair. You can have the identical house on the same block and they get 2 appraisals. And then the schools, you know, you have a school property tax. People are kind of frustrated with our public schools. I hope and believe they're getting better, need to get better. I think how public education goes is how Houston goes and how the state goes. It's not on my plate, but I'm not bashful about speaking up. We need to take care of our public schools, and the vouchers, wrong direction. It's just going to pull people from our public schools. HISD's enrollment is significantly being reduced, and that's a combination of things. But, you know, we live in a big city with a lot of challenges. Collaboration with the county is working, and the state, and now the federal government helping us with infrastructure. But I'm excited. I see the improvements daily. Tranquility Park, walked it last week. Mm-hmm. Go look at it. It'd been essentially abandoned. It's across the street from City Hall, mm-hmm. right at the front door of the Hobby Center. The Hobby Center people, board, came to me and said, what an eyesore. So we got busy with the parks. We're working with Downtown Central. I can't say enough about downtown.
We've got about 15, 20 seconds left.
Tranquility's a clean, attractive park. We're going to have farmers markets on it on Saturday morning soon.
Closing thought before you go on the budget that you want everyone to take away from this.
I want everyone to know that we are scrubbing City Hall for savings, but the city's had a financial shortfall for as long as I can remember, and I've been in government since 73. So we looked around, we looked at studies of other cities. We took a recommendation and a study by the Comptroller's Office last October, and we're following that merger of solid waste and public works and charging a utility fee like other cities do. And we're charging also our water system a right-of-way fee, what other cities do. So we're on a roll. It's not perfect. We welcome public output. You can come to City Hall. Hell, we got a night City Hall meeting next Tuesday. So I'm excited. You got me worked up. I want to go back to City Hall and keep going forward.
Mayor, we're going to stop you right there because we're out of time. Thank you so much for making yourself available and for always doing these without any limits on what we talk about. We appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll come back anytime.
Mayor John Whitmire, there is more of Hello Houston still to come. Stay with us.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
This is your NPR station, KUHF Houston, News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. More of Hello Houston straight ahead. The time now is 12 noon.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, President Trump has said that he's seriously considering making Venezuela the United States' 51st state. We'll discuss this and more as we discuss the top headlines of the day. I'm Ernie Manouse.
And I'm guest host Katharine Shilcutt. Plus, we'll hear Hello Houston producer Garrett Bohlmann talk with award-winning comic book writer Jason Aaron ahead of his upcoming appearance at next weekend's Comicpalooza.
Plus, it's Thursday, which means it's time to share our current obsessions, and we want to know yours.
That's right. Give us a call or text us with your comments, questions, or current obsessions at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And you can watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping wrapped up their first round of talks in Beijing today, with discussions centered on the war in Iran, trade tensions, and global energy security. Speaking alongside his Chinese counterpart, Trump emphasized cooperation between the two countries.
The American and Chinese people share much in common. We value hard work. We value courage and achievement. We love our families and we love our countries. Together we have the chance to draw on these values to create a future of greater prosperity, cooperation, and happiness, and peace for our children. We love our children. This region and the world is a special world with the two of us united and together.
The White House says both leaders agreed Iran cannot obtain a nuclear weapon and stressed the importance of fully reopening the Strait of Hormuz to shipping. The two leaders also discussed the island democracy of Taiwan. Ashish Valentine reports Taipei is responding to the talks, emphasizing Taiwan's strong ties with the U.S.
According to Chinese state broadcaster CCTV, Xi Jinping told Trump the Taiwan issue could bring the U.S. and China into conflict if it's mishandled. China claims the self-ruled island as its own territory and has not ruled out the use of force to take it. Responding to public concerns, Trump may strike a deal with Xi to lower U.S. support for Taiwan. The leader of Taiwan's ruling party legislative caucus, Zhuang Zhuixiong, said it's better that the two large elephants, the U.S. and China, sit down and talk rather than fight. He emphasized support for Taiwan in the U.S. is bipartisan and based on laws like the Taiwan Relations Act, which compels the U.S. to help Taiwan defend itself. For NPR News, I'm Ashish Valentine in Taipei.
President Trump is expected to meet again with President Xi on Friday before heading back to Washington. Georgia is expected to be one of the next states to redraw its congressional map. Sarah Callis with Georgia Public Broadcasting reports.
Georgia's Republican Governor Brian Kemp issued a proclamation calling a special session to redraw the state's congressional and state legislative districts after the Supreme Court weakened the Voting Rights Act. Georgia's new maps will take effect in 2028, since early voting is already underway in this year's primaries. Other southern states like Alabama, Tennessee, Louisiana, and South Carolina have proposed new voting maps that will likely add Republican seats to Congress. The redistricting announcements come after President Donald Trump encouraged states to redraw the maps to help him during the midterms. The special session is set to begin on July 17th. For NPR News, I'm Sarah Callis in Atlanta.
On Wall Street, the Dow was up 358 points. This is NPR News in Washington.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. This just into News 88.7, an 11-year-old girl was struck and killed by a pickup truck outside the Clute Intermediate School on Thursday. The girl was reportedly riding a bicycle when she was hit. Clute police say the accident happened around 7:20 in the morning, right in front of the school. The bicyclist was hit as the pickup was leaving the school's parking lot. The driver immediately stopped and tried to render aid for the girl. Former Houston Mayor Annise Parker holds a solid lead over former Houston City Council member Letitia Plummer in the Democratic primary runoff for Houston County Judge. News 88.7 political reporter Andrew Schneider says that's the finding of a new survey just released by the University of Houston's Hobby School of Public Affairs.
The survey shows Parker leading Plummer among likely Democratic primary voters by 18 percentage points, with just 10% of respondents unsure of whom they'll vote for. Mark Jones of Rice University's Baker Institute is co-author of the poll.
We're looking at the electorate that's more likely to have a four-year college degree and is going to be a little older and a little whiter than the electorate back in March. And all of those factors benefit Parker.
The survey shows Parker leading Plummer among Latino voters by almost 30 points and among independents by more than 20 points. Jones says that the winner of the Democratic primary runoff will have a strong advantage going into the general election, in part due to the low approval ratings of President Donald Trump. I'm Andrew Schneider, News 88.7.
Taking a look at sports, the Mariners wrap up their visit to Houston this afternoon at 1:10 at Dyken Park. The Astros avoid the sweep on a 4-3 10-inning win last night. Checking your weather, sunny, 92 the high today, and air quality alert is in effect for high ozone. Partly cloudy overnight with a low around 71. Right now, hazy 83 degrees on the UH campus. Get more news and information. Go to houstonpublicmedia.org. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher's dedicated team of specialists provide resources on investing, retirement income, estate planning, and more. Learn more at fisherinvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manouse.
And I can never do it alone. Sitting in with me today is Katharine Shilcutt. Hello.
Hello again, Ernie.
We got no time at the top of the show to chat and get to know each other even more, even though we've known each other for
a million
years and years and years and years. For folks who don't have the joy and the opportunity that I have had to get to know you and see your career, a quick little thumbnail so they know who's been sitting here.
Sure. So I have been at Rice University for the last 10 years. I'm the Director of Communications for Research. But before that, I was a journalist here in Houston for a long time. I think a lot of people know me as the former food critic for the Houston
That's what
Press.
I always think about when I think about you. All that food coverage.
I still think that's primarily how people associate me. And I was also the dining editor at Houstonian Magazine. And I still do a lot of food content online on Instagram.
So we had the mayor on, and he took up our whole first hour, and we always appreciate when the mayor makes himself available to us, and that we hope you felt represented in the questions we asked, and we're always open, and he's always open, which I think is wonderful, to taking calls and emails and all of that, and so we appreciate your involvement in it. Remember, when we do have him on the show, that is your opportunity to be heard, so please call in with your questions and make sure we can engage with him on it. It's funny because you sometimes think an elected official will come on and say, okay, I'm coming on, but I don't want to talk about this and I don't want to talk about that.
These things are off limits.
To my knowledge, he has never put any guardrails on coming on our show. We invite him for something, but then if it goes somewhere else, he's always been willing to talk about it. So whether you agree with his policies or not, the one thing I think we can agree on here is that he does make himself available to this show to come on and talk. It may not be the same with all media outlets, but
and what a great opportunity for listeners to have that same opportunity to talk to him. Right?
Yeah. And he's always saying it. He says it when he leaves every time. If you're watching in the camera, you can always see our dismount, and we talk for a minute there with him. And he's always like, anytime, I'll come back anytime. So thank you to the mayor for doing that with us today.
That's great.
And so now that I've said all of that, what was your reaction to the comments he said? What did you feel comfortable in? Where did you think there was still area of explanation needed? What were some things you may have posed that we didn't get to? Give us a call and let us know. 713-440-8870. We'd love to share those with you. In addition to that, today, now this is your first time with us doing it. Today is Thursday. Our regular listeners and viewers know this is Current Obsessions Day.
I have so many personal current obsessions, so I'm very excited to talk about this, but I'm eager to hear what other people share too.
And that's why we want you to call, text, or even email them starting now at 713-440-8870 or talk at hellohouston.org. At the next half of the show, we'll go through the current obsessions and we'll see what's on your minds. We'll share ours. Most of you know what my current obsession is if you're a regular listener. I'm trying to limit how much I talk about it.
It couldn't possibly be Eurovision.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed. But we'll talk about that in just a little bit. It's important, though, that we hear yours. This is your opportunity to share those with us as well. In case a programming note, Representative Al Green was going to join us in this hour, and unfortunately, he was unable to make it today. So I just want to let you know if you've heard promos for it or saw postings or heard us yesterday, so he will not be joining us. But coming up in the show, we do have something really cool, and we'll tell you about that in just a minute. So did you get any feedback after sitting in with us yesterday? Did friends call you and say, hey, Katharine, heard you on the radio?
I got nothing but really positive feedback. I'm open to constructive criticism, y'all. It was really nice, though.
Are to some degree. Well, we're going to continue to chat with you and share things with you, and we hope that you'll continue to do the same with us. But as always, we like to start the top of the hour, if we don't have the mayor of the city sitting in here with us, with the headlines of the day. So, Katharine, take us into the news.
Fox News reports President Donald Trump is eyeing Venezuela as a potential 51st state, as officials continue to court oil companies for investments in the South American country following the U.S. removal of President Nicolas Maduro from power. Trump said in a phone call with Fox News that he is motivated by the estimated $40 trillion in value of oil in Venezuela, adding that he is popular with the country's citizens. Venezuela loves Trump, Trump said. After U.S. military officials captured Maduro in January, whom the Justice Department indicted on narco-terrorism charges, Trump said the United States would, quote, run the country during its transitional period and work with Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez. For Trump to annex Venezuela and make it a state, it would require congressional approval and consent from Venezuela, which Rodriguez said would never happen. What are your thoughts on making Venezuela the 51st U.S. state? Call us, please. Let us know. 713-440-8870.
My initial reaction, I'm so tired.
I'm so tired.
I can't keep up on this stuff anymore.
It's just noise and very little signal these days. And like, of all of the places we could make a 51st state, D.C., Puerto Rico,
something we already have that's right
Guam,
here.
There are territories that would really benefit from being made a U.S. state.
And that's not even considering Canada.
Poor Canada.
I mean, it's just, I wonder, is it just more distraction? Is there method to the madness? Is there a real thought behind it? Is it a negotiation tool of some sort and something going on with the administration and Venezuela that they want to float this idea to make them unsteady in some way? I like to think that all of these utterances that just come out from our president at different times and catch us off guard, that there's some calculation behind them. But I fear that oftentimes they're just reactionary to whatever is on his mind at the moment.
And I feel like if there is anything behind it, it's oil.
Right.
It's
I mean,
oil.
Definitely. If there's
right?
$40 trillion sitting
oil
out there and he wants to seize control of it, I understand this floating this idea. But is there reality behind it?
There couldn't possibly be.
Right. So what is the point of it? That's what makes me think there's more to the madness than just the madness. Mm-hmm. But I know people will argue, no, he's just good at causing all of these disruptions across the spectrum so that you never know what to hold on to, what's happening. Meanwhile, you have the Supreme Court making these rulings on voting and districts that are ultimately going to have a huge change on this country's representation as a whole. You have issues going on with wars, two wars that we're involved with, one specifically, one just almost by standing by when you talk about Ukraine and Russia, but then you look at what's going on with Iraq and you're like, or Iran, what are we doing that now what's in the news is Venezuela as a 51st state?
It's a very convenient distraction.
It is. Do you get hooked into them?
At this point in my life, no.
Oh, really?
You can't. You have to kind of just let those things roll off my back a little bit.
713-440-8870. Let us know what you think.
I mean, to your point, we have to be focused on the really long-term things that are happening at the national level that will continue to actually affect us for generations to come.
Yeah.
Like redistricting, like gerrymandering, things like that.
Like what's going on in the Straits of Hormuz and what is going on with Iran. I said a moment ago, Iraq, I always confuse them. I always word-wise say the wrong one. I know we're talking about Iran. But it's just, it is very concerning. My British computer guy says on YouTube, if he does try and pull that into the union, he'll name Venezuela Trumpland.
Oh.
Trump-Venezuela.
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 Trump, it's all terrible.
It is. It's just, it's bothersome. It's concerning. Somebody else, Earl Grey T-Cat, says he's senile. I don't know if it's senility. I know there's something else at play here, but it's just like, what is the game? Like you say, of course, the first thought we all go to is it's the oil. There's financial reserves there. If we can get a hold of it, there's money. But is that really it? Or is it just another, here, I'm saying this in a moment.
And I think it's notable, too, that Venezuela itself is remaining very quiet about Trump's comments. They have not said anything publicly. Rodriguez is not saying anything on the record.
Except it'll never happen.
I don't think that, would you want your sovereign nation to be suddenly taken over by another nation? No.
Yeah.
Regardless of what's going on in the country, it's still your nation.
All right. So if you have a thought on this one, let us know. It's 713-440-8870. I'm going to move on to another story which kind of fascinates me. It's those driverless cars again.
Oh, boy.
Before I even get into it, what are your thoughts of them?
I don't.
Would you ride one?
I deeply mistrust them. I don't like the idea of not being able to communicate verbally, like with the person or thing driving me somewhere. I've seen too many videos of them getting stuck, them getting confused.
Oh, wait till you hear this story.
Oh,
then.
no.
Here we go. Driverless car company Waymo is recalling nearly 3,800 vehicles after one of its autonomous taxis was swept into floodwaters in San Antonio last month. The vehicle detected the flooded roadway but continued driving at a reduced speed before being carried into the Salado Creek. No one was inside and no injuries were reported. Waymo says it's now updating its software and tightening weather-related operating limits for its fleet. The recall affects vehicles nationwide, including those operating where? Right here in Houston, though the company says local service will continue uninterrupted. What are your thoughts on Waymos, these autonomous cars? Are you sold on driverless cars? 713-440-8870. My problem, which is not at all what we're talking about here, I'm disturbed by the fact they just look like regular cars inside. You don't have a driver. Why is there a driver's seat with everything that looks just like you could reach over and turn on your radio? Redo the inside. Make it look a little traveling living room, something.
I wonder, that's a really good point. And I wonder if it's to prevent some sort of cognitive dissonance where you're getting in. It's already weird enough that there's no driver. They're at least giving you the visual satisfaction of knowing that it's still a car in a sense. I don't know. That's a good point.
It's just so weird to me.
But also, like, you literally described nightmares that I have about cars getting swept away. That we already have a problem in Houston with people driving into floodwaters. We don't also need driverless cars driving into floodwaters.
Then you're going to love this. Riders will soon be able to access additional areas, including Edo, the Texas Medical Center, and Northeast Houston. Waymo tells Axios the expansion will roll out in the coming weeks. So if you didn't like it, there's more of it coming.
That's just great. Just what we all wanted.
Waymo's current Houston service area spans roughly 25 square miles around downtown, Montrose, the Heights, Rice Military, and nearby neighborhoods. I'm just full of little Waymo information for you. Want to know more? Waymo is nearly doubling its Houston service area up to 50 square miles ahead of what? World Cup.
Of course. And I just find it fascinating, too, that we are, as a city, encouraging people to take Metro, everyone, visitors and everyone to take Metro. But at the same time, we're flooding the streets with more driverless cars.
You know, I mean, I've talked about this on the show before, and you have not been here when I have gone off on this, but I have a big problem with helicopters.
Oh.
Because I have a big problem with people doing their jobs in general. And I think here's something that is all mechanically based. And if somebody didn't tighten the right screw or set the right thing, there can be catastrophic damage.
Yeah.
And for some unknown reason, I seem to think, though, a giant airliner, well, it could still glide in the air because it has wings.
As we've
but
seen,
a helicopter without the spinning blades, just boom. So I'm not a big fan of mechanical things and trusting my life to something that someone put together. But then for some reason, I kind of like these cars. And I tend to think, and this goes back to my non-trust of people's ability to do their jobs, I trust that as these Waymos are reworked and replanned and reprogrammed, that there are going to be better drivers on the street than most people I know who get caught up either drunk driving or talking on the phone or not paying attention, or the kid in the back seat's yelling and the mom turns to look at them and misses what's happening in front. So maybe if there were more autonomous vehicles, they would all know each other and their patterns of behavior, that ultimately we would have safer streets.
And you know what? I will give it to you. I will give it to you. And I will add to your point that, you know, with Uber and Lyft, there's a reason now that women can choose to have only female drivers. A driverless car is probably not going to make a passenger feel deeply uncomfortable.
In the same ways.
In the same ways. It might still drive
into a car where no one's sitting in the driver's seat and we take off. That still does make me uncomfortable.
But it's probably, different than driving into the Salado River.
713-440-8870. We've brought up a lot of different topics, and so we're getting some calls. Let's go see what Sarah from Montrose has to say. Sarah, what's on your mind?
Hey, so I was approved recently to ride on Waymo here in Houston, and I was kind of excited because I do agree with you, Ernie. I think over time that autonomous vehicles will prove statistically to be safer than Uber or Lyft. And I've driven for Uber or Lyft before. I've ridden with them, so I've seen it from both sides. And what really has made me stop and not book my first ride in a Waymo is not so much the issues about them driving into the rivers. It's that the cost of the ride was as much or more than an Uber or a Lyft. And I'm just curious, why that is. Mm-hmm. If there's no driver getting paid, and I just kind of have an ethical objection to that, I think, as a consumer, where if it's Uber or Lyft, I know I'm helping somebody pay their bills, right? But where is my money going when I put it into the Waymo app and get a ride that's literally in a beta testing phase? Mm-hmm. And, why am I getting charged as much? I think that's ludicrous personally. And I don't know what the reasoning is behind that.
I would argue back on that, though, since you already said you agreed with me on the earlier points, I shouldn't argue back too hard, but I would argue back. I think it's because it's starting up, and I think there's a lot of cost at the front end of it. And I would assume in time, hopefully those costs would come down because you aren't paying salaries and all of that part of it to individuals. But, maybe the technology is so expensive, too, that it is going to keep it higher,
Or they see that Uber and Lyft already charge rates that people are willing to pay. And once people are willing to pay a rate, they will continue doing it.
I am a strong believer in this whole concept that once they see what the market will bear, it never goes down.
Exactly.
They see you'll pay it, even if prices around me, even if it becomes cheaper technology to do this, but you're willing to pay it, I'm going to keep charging you.
The precedent has been set.
Yes. Sarah, thank you very much for calling and sharing with us today. Sean Radigan, I'm guessing, agrees with me. He says helicopters are death traps. In no way at all are we attacking the helicopter industry here, nor do I want to say that a lot of people don't utilize helicopters. We have the helilifts and stuff that work with our medical center every single day. Life Flight. Yeah. Thank you for that, and we are very fortunate to have that technology. Me on a personal level, this is just my own little idiosyncrasy that bothers me. I was in New York with a dear friend of mine, maybe 10 years ago, 8 years ago, and he wanted to take the helicopter ride out to look at the Statue of Liberty and come back. I'm like, I'm sorry, Anders, you can go do whatever you want. I am not doing that.
Couldn't pay me either.
But on the other hand, I have jumped out of an airplane with a parachute on my back and done that. So I've skydived. So there's no rationale to
You
what goes
were
on in my head.
Prepared for that, though.
Yes, I knew that there was but you never know. What if somebody packed it? Once again, my mistrust of people doing their jobs. I'm going to try and do my job right now and move us on. We are going to take a quick break. Hello, Houston. We'll continue in just a moment with producer Garrett Bohlmann interviewing award-winning Thor and X-Men comic book writer Jason Aaron ahead of his appearance at next weekend's Comicpalooza right here in Houston. So don't go anywhere. Katharine and I will be right back right after this.
Meet Gamola, songwriter, world-class violinist, and award-winning multi-genre artist. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. Visit ridemetro.org/Gamola to learn more about his ride.
President Trump heads to Beijing for his summit with Xi Jinping. We speak with China expert and former national security official Rush Doshi. He says events of the last year show that China now faces the U.S. as a true peer as they square off over trade and tariffs, the Iran conflict, and the future of Taiwan. Join us.
Fresh Air airs at 8 p.m. on News 88.7.
I'm Peter O'Dowd. Climate change can be a scary topic for kids.
It was a question that I think kept me up for the last 5 years, honestly.
A new podcast called The Midnight Rebellion reframes the climate crisis as an epic adventure where children can choose how the story ends. Next time on Here and Now.
Here and Now, 1 this afternoon.
I think that the big question for everyone is just how much runway is Trump going to give his Fed chair pick? Is he going to give him a couple of months to settle in, or is he going to come right out of the gate and attack him for not being able to deliver the thing that he has kind of made clear was the precondition for whoever he was going to give the job to?
I'm Michael Barbaro. That's Today on the Daily from the New York Times.
This evening at 7. Support for Houston Public Media comes from downtown Houston, moving forward with more people back in the office, more visitors every week, and over $1 million grant dollars invested into small businesses and storefronts. More at downtownhouston.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manouse and guest host Katharine Shilcutt.
Comicpalooza, the largest pop culture festival in Texas, will run in Houston from May 22nd to the 24th and feature, as it does every year, a vast number of special attractions, programming, and celebrity guests representing various pop culture fandoms. Among the many guests that will be attending this year's event, one name comic book fans will surely recognize is award-winning comic book writer Jason Aaron, best known for his work with Marvel Comics, which includes a 7-year run on Thor, as well as his own creator-owned works. Aaron spoke with Hello Houston producer Garrett Bohlmann ahead of his upcoming appearance at next week's Comicpalooza. Take a listen.
Where does your love for comics come from?
Being a kid growing up in the 80s, you know, the era of the grocery store spinner rack. So that was where I first discovered comics. That was where I learned how to read. And I kind of never lost that love and passion. I've read comics my entire life. You know, as I've moved around, I've always had a local comic book shop, always had a pull list somewhere. So never let go of that passion, and kind of figured out pretty early age as a kid that, you know, once I understood, oh, there's people somewhere who do this for a living. They write and draw these things. I decided, you know, really young that's what I wanted to do someday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, you know, you've made quite the career for yourself out of it. You know, your work includes your work on Marvel Comics in particular, especially with the character Thor, and for introducing the concept of having Thor's love interest, Jane Foster, take on the mantle herself. You know, I'm curious, talk to me about where that idea came from.
Yeah, you know, I did like a 6 or 7 year run on Thor. The first chunk of my run focused on Thor Odin's son, the Thor that we all know. It's always kind of been a big part of his story that you have to be worthy to lift the hammer of Thor. And so I spent a lot of time exploring, like, what does that mean? What is the idea of worthiness for a god? Like, what does it mean to be worthy? Is he always worthy? If, presumably if he has to wake up every day and look at that hammer and, question whether he's going to be able to lift it or not, there are going to be days where he can't. And what does that mean? So I wanted to do a story that explored that for Thor Odinson, the idea of unworthiness, and then that opened the door for somebody else to come along and pick up the hammer and be worthy and to become Thor, which kind of fulfills the promise of, the inscription that's been on the side of that hammer going back to Thor's first appearance in Marvel Comics back in the 60s. There was always that promise of, if you were worthy and you picked this up, you could become Thor. So Jane Foster was a character who had been around almost, as long as Thor. I mean, she showed up in his like second or third appearance back in the day, and she'd always been his love interest. And so I like the idea of kind of putting her at the center of the Thor universe for a time. And the emotional crux of the story was about, at the same time she's flying around the universe and punching bad guys in the face and getting to live life as the goddess of thunder. In her human mortal life, she's also battling breast cancer. And then every time she picks up that hammer and transform, it's neutralizing the effects of the chemotherapy. So basically every time she becomes Thor, she's killing herself a little more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's such a great idea, such an interesting take for that character, direction to give that character. And, what you're talking about right there, a lot of what happened with her character was sort of put into the fourth Thor movie, Love and Thunder, as well as the character that the villain that you co-created, Gore the God Butcher. How did it feel to you as a creative to have your work play such a huge inspiration into that film?
It was cool. It was exciting. The Taika Waititi, the director, was really cool throughout the whole process. Probably the most fun part for me was just the onslaught of Thor toys that came from it. So seeing Jane Foster Thor Halloween costumes for little girls and seeing a Gore the God Butcher Lego figure or a Jane Foster Happy Meal toy, things I never really imagined would exist. Like that was kind of the coolest part. And they all ended up on, in the shelves here in my office. But I mean, to me, really, it's like I write comics. That's kind of what I wanted to do since I was a kid. That's really what I want to do until the day I die. So it's, to me, the kind of the comics are the most important part of it. Anything that happens beyond that is cool, but that all feels like gravy. And so, it was cool just to see people get exposed to those characters. Gore, the God Butcher, was the villain from kind of the first big chunk of my Thor run, and then Jane Foster was really the focus of the middle section. So that the movie kind of crammed together two different parts of my Thor run. But really the most important thing for me is always, exposing people to the comics.
Mm-hmm. When you're writing for characters that have existed for decades, that have all this history with them, do you ever feel sort of limited as a storyteller as far as what you think you can write about with these characters, just with all that history behind them?
No, I mean, I think you have to look at that as like a plus instead of a negative of, yeah, there's the most of these characters are older than me. So there's tons of stories going back decades, like you said. And at some point it becomes impossible to like reconcile all of those stories. I think you always have to kind of pick and choose what's most important to the character and what resonates with you. And then you always have to do a story that we haven't seen a million times before, right? Like you can't just pick the bones of the same stories that you loved when you were a kid. You have to take these characters somewhere new and exciting. And I think to me, what I did with Thor is a good example of that, of like the building blocks of my run and everything that I was doing was really rooted in Thor stories of the past, like going back to the original dynamic for Thor that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby created, and the idea of other characters being transformed by that hammer, which was something that was a big part of Walt Simonson's run. So it was really, those building blocks were already there. I just built new stories on top of it, which is, I think that's always the challenge with any of these characters. I mean, right now I'm doing Absolute Superman for DC Comics, and Superman is a character with a history that goes back almost 100 years at this point, and it's filled with stories that everybody knows. Everybody knows the origin of Superman. So it's like, how do you take what's important, what really has resonated about that character and made that character endure for so very long, but put that in the middle of a story that still feels fresh and exciting and relevant to today.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, as a creative, when you're writing for these characters, are you ever concerned with how fans will react to, let's say your take on a character that we all know and love? Is that ever a concern for you as a storyteller, or do you just kind of trust your instincts, like, this is where I want to take this character, and you just sort of go with it? And if they don't like it, they don't like it.
Yeah, I think you have to take that kind of attitude. I mean, to me, it feels easy in the sense that writing has always been a very like solitary pursuit for me. Like, I grew up in a small town, spending a lot of my time kind of running through the backwoods of Alabama, making up stories in my head. So it feels like that's still what I'm doing. I'm still a kid, playing with my Star Wars toys in the backyard. So I really, every time I sit down to write a story, I don't know how to write one to make anybody else happy. I just know how to write the kind of stuff that I want to read. And, thankfully I feel like that translates if you do a story that genuinely emotionally resonates with you, like it will do the same with other people. You're never going to please everybody. And I think, especially with comics where you're talking about every character, no matter how obscure, has a very dedicated fan base, and people have very set ideas about what they want to see from that character. Whenever you do something that seems to stray from that, you can get a strong reaction. I mean, we got strong reactions to the Jane Foster Thor story really before it even came out, before anybody had read it. People just reacted, to the fact that the main character was changing. So I don't think you can ever write stories based on, what the reactions you get from social media. Like, I think as a writer, as a creator, you have to do what speaks to you.
Mm. Yeah, and speaking of that, tell me, is there a character that you've written for that speaks to you personally, or you have a certain connection with, or that just resonates with you?
I mean, yes. I mean, as a kid who grew up reading comics, like, there are characters that I've always been more attracted to just as a fan, but that hasn't, to me, translated directly in terms of how I've built my career. Like, I haven't gone through my career just pursuing the characters that I most loved, when I was 12 years old. It's very much about what speaks to me at this moment in time, and kind of, the real people as opposed to the fictional ones who are involved in the situation. And I think my run on Thor is a good example of that. I was not a huge fan of Thor growing up. It's a character I'd never really thought about writing until there was just this moment in time where Marvel, all the main ongoing titles were changing hands. So kind of everything was up for grabs. And I realized in that moment that Thor was the thing that seemed to be speaking to me. And then I, did 100 issues on that character. So yes, I have a deep love, a deep passion for comics. I've got, here next to me in my office, I'm sitting next to 30,000 comic books, that I've collected over the course of the last 50 years. So my nerd credentials run deep, but I think it's a different thing when I'm just sort of planning out what do I want to write. It very much needs to be like what speaks to me now at this particular time in my career.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about after you're done writing for a character. Does it stick with you?
Yeah, sometimes, sure. I mean, I think you spend years of your life living with these characters, and they spend so much time, so much of your brain is taken up with those characters' lives and thoughts and stories. It is weird when you get to the point where, you go your separate ways, and those characters continue on in their adventures. But I think whenever you're doing, work for hire comics, like for Marvel or DC, like you're very much just a temporary custodian of those characters, like you're standing on the shoulders of all these other writers and artists who have crafted stories with these characters over the course of the previous decades. And that your job is just to kind of shepherd them for a while, maybe bend the toys a little bit, but definitely don't break them. And so that when you leave and you put them back in the toy box, you're leaving them hopefully in even better shape than they were when you came along, at least in the same shape, because they're going to continue to have adventures for many years to come. It's definitely different when you talk about, like creator-owned works. Like I've done a lot of original comics over the years. One of my first books for Vertigo, when I first broke in, was a Native American crime drama called Scalped that went for 60 issues. And that was kind of one of the books that really gave me my career in comics. So that feels different when it's characters that you very much, made up on your own whole cloth. Those characters from Scalped have stuck with me and haunted me in ways where I just miss them. It feels like you had this group of friends that you used to hang out with, and now you don't see them anymore. So you just kind of miss getting to see them.
Mm-hmm. Is there a character that you haven't written for yet that you just have such a strong passion to write for?
Yeah, I mean, I think despite what I said about kind of just going by what feels right in the particular moment in time, I think there's always kind of a short list of characters I'd love to tackle. I mean, I've been lucky enough to check a few of them off the last few years. Like Conan the Barbarian was a big one for me, going back to when I was a kid who first fell in love with fantasy stories. And Superman, of course, was big on that list. And surprisingly enough, Uncle Scrooge was a big character for me. And then I got to do a couple of Uncle Scrooge stories for Marvel the last couple of years. Godzilla was another one. So I've checked off a lot. There's still a couple more in particular at DC Comics, and that I grew up really as a DC kid, but I've spent 15, 16 years of my career so far at Marvel. So I've only just started to work at DC. So there's kind of a long list of characters there I'd like to tackle, including Batman. I mean, I did a Batman in space story a couple of years ago. That was my first real thing at DC, but I'd love to do some more traditional, gritty street level Batman.
And there was award-winning comic book writer Jason Aarons as he spoke with Houston producer Garrett Bohlmann. Jason will be appearing all weekend long at Comicpalooza from May 22nd to the 24th. Coming up, our current obsession. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
The latest internet health craze is injectable peptides, but are they safe?
We don't know what can happen when you're injecting kind of untested molecules into people's bodies.
The risks of injecting peptides and why some people are doing it anyway. That's next time on Think.
Join us for Think. You can hear that tonight at 11 on News 88.7.
When ICE descended upon Minneapolis earlier this year, community support groups raised millions of dollars to help immigrants pay rent and buy groceries. After agents left, the donations dried up, but the need has not.
I think a lot of people are just burnt out. They don't have the time, and they also don't have the money anymore.
I'm Elsa Chang. Hear that story on the next All Things Considered from NPR News.
And that begins at 3 this afternoon.
Hey, it's Francis.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
Existential comedy by Liz Duffy Adams. An advice columnist faces a deadline and considers the meaning of life. May 8th through 31st. Tickets at alletheater.org.
Support comes from Metro. World Cup planning includes transit improvements intended to serve Houston after the final match. Metro provides bus, rail, and paratransit service and continues mobility enhancements across the region. More at ridemetro.org/Metro Now.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manouse and guest host Katharine Shilcutt.
Well, you know what it's time for. It is Thursday, end of the show.
I've been looking forward to this.
Current obsessions. It's a thing. It's a rundown of things that we are currently talking about and are taking over our free time. A current obsession could be a TV show you run home to continue to watch, a song that you keep playing on repeat, an audiobook that makes you drive that extra mile in your car. Or if you're in a driverless car. No, I don't know. You get the idea. Before we jump into mine and Katharine's obsessions for this week, how about what's trending in the top 10 on X right now? It's the 2026 Cannes Film Festival.
Oh, it is that time of year again, isn't it?
I've been paying very little attention to it this year.
Honestly, same.
Yeah, usually I know what's going on, but as we'll get to shortly, I have other obsessions that are taking up all my free time. You know, before we get into our particular interests, we want to know yours. Give us a call or text 713-440-8870. While we're gathering those, I want to jump back a little bit. Some of the comments we have been getting in here today after our earlier conversation. A lot of people were reacting to the driverless cars and our thoughts on all of those. And I want to get back over to where we saw that. I've lost it already in here. My New Year's bingo card is already starting to fill up. Oh, this is another story we did. I have bingo before this year is out. The president has already invaded 2 countries other than Greenland. That was from my British computer guy said that. Wine Goddess, Texas. I'll be more comfortable when there are more driverless cars on the road and even cars with drivers that drive themselves. There are glitches currently. I do think this is the way of the future, though. Alex Garza. You know, leave them alone. I'm fully on board. These are with our driverless cards. Another option for us is not to be able to drive or drive faster than Metro.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair. I can't argue with that.
To go to a comment you had made about feeling comfortable in a Uber or Lyft. One person writes, my male friend was offered a ride from a female Lyft driver and was robbed at gunpoint and left on the street. I'm okay with no drivers. So you got all of those going on. Now, into what we really want to talk about, current obsessions. Okay, Katharine, start me off. What are you obsessed with?
Okay, the moment that it starts to get hot outside, and hot for Houston, it's all relative, right? It's sugarcane juice season for me. I am obsessed with sugarcane juice. Have you had it before?
No.
It's giant fresh stalks of sugarcane that are ground into, like, imagine natural Gatorade. And they add flavors and stuff. Like, my favorite is ginger lime. And it is the most refreshing. It tastes so, it's still sugar water. It has electrolytes, though. It has other things. It has antioxidants. I'm obsessed with sugarcane juice. There's only a handful of places around town that make it fresh, and you want to find those places. One of my favorites is Mamma Mia Fusion in like Bel Air West U area. And then out in A-Leaf, like in Hong Kong City Mall in Chinatown, place that's been there forever. And it is just wonderful. Quan Bin Men. And you can also get really good fresh fruit there, like jackfruit is in season right now. And that's so summer to me in Houston, is lots of fresh fruit, sugarcane juice. That's how I survive and thrive in a Houston summer.
So it's not like simple syrup.
No, it is fresh sugarcane that
right,
they put
but
through
the
a
flavoring,
grinder.
is it like just I think of
no, it's almost
like sugary.
It's not very cloying. It's not even very sugary. It's almost vegetal tasting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it has like a freshness to it that you're like, this is clearly ground fresh from something. If you didn't know it was sugarcane, you might not necessarily think that, but it just tastes very, I don't know. It's subtle. It's rich in a way that it's not overwhelming at the same time. Yeah,
Well, okay,
if you haven't
I'm
had
gonna have to
sugarcane
try
juice,
that.
you got to get out there.
That's coming up on my list. Some other obsessions that people have, and I'll get back to you for more obsessions in a minute. Noah Espinosa says, obsessed with Stacking Benjamin's podcast.
Oh.
Trying to be financially literate as well as politically and socially. So it's a good, be well-rounded, Noah. That's important.
It's a good blend. Yeah, right. Very Renaissance man. I like that.
I'm somewhat close. I'm close with Susie Orman. And so she always gives me my financial advice.
If there's anyone to go to for financial advice, it's Susie Orman.
I know. And the best piece of advice she ever gave me, which she gives everyone, get out of debt. And
yes.
I did maybe 20 years ago. I paid everything off and
Wow.
have never incurred debt since. And even the last car I bought with cash. It was a cheap car, but I bought it with cash. And then I paid my savings back with the interest that it would have
Amazing.
cost on a loan. So I made money on my car.
Look at you.
Look at that.
That's impressive.
Yeah, my friends and I were talking the other day, if you won the lottery, how rich you would be. And I'm thinking, I would still drive my little Chevy Sonic. I would still go to the same places. I don't live an extravagant life where money goes quickly for things. Another current obsession we got is from Braden, says, currently obsessed with the daily game online called Globe Hopper. With no E in Hopper. You get to go from one city to another by jumping between other cities. I've never heard of this.
That sounds very Carmen Sandiego. I like it. That sounds fun.
Yeah. My British computer guy, I'm going to read this verbatim. Okay, my number one obsession this week I share with Ernie. Eurovision. Good luck to Malta this afternoon. We're in the semifinals, so today Malta is competing in the semifinal. I know Ernie has a twinkle in his eye for Aiden. That is the singer of the song from Malta. And his number two is La Brea, a TV show about a sinkhole event in LA that transports survivors to 10,000 BC as they fight to stay alive. Their families are above ground, race to uncover the truth and bring them home.
I can't say I've seen La Brea yet. It's on
I
my
have seen
list.
the ads for it, though.
Okay,
they
well,
definitely
that's
marketed
working.
it to me. Wine Goddess Texas says, I'm obsessed with catching up on sleep after a crazy 3 weeks.
Oh, a woman after my own heart. I'm assuming you're a woman, Wine Goddess.
Wine Goddesses. We know Wine Goddess.
That's the real stuff right there.
I'm looking quickly to see if I've skipped over any. We have a text that says I have two current obsessions. You know, while I'm doing all these, if you'd like to join, call us or text us, 713-440-8870. You can chat in the chat group on YouTube, or you can email us, talk@hellohouston.org. Okay. Back to this text. I have two current obsessions. One is following the NBA playoffs. Even though the Rockets are no longer competing, the San Antonio Spurs with Wemby are great. My second is caring for my post-op pup. I think it's Fonton. Fonton? F-H-O-T-O-N. Photon? Photon. Who is recuperating from knee surgery. Richard, we're sorry about your pup, and we wish your pup a speedy recovery. Okay, any other current obsessions you have?
Ooh, the album I cannot stop playing. It's going to be my album of the summer, even though it came out in March, is Ray's second album, This Music May Contain Hope. Have you heard of it?
No.
There's two singles that are all over the place right now. One is Where Is My Husband? And the other is Nightingale Lane. They're very different songs, but it's very jazz, big band, soul, blues, a little bit of blend of everything. It's all I listen to when I work out. It is so good. And it's just this wonderful album, like all about hope and liberation and the complexities of human emotion. It's wonderful.
A little while ago on the great interview that Garrett Bohlmann had done with that comic book author, and the comment was, those shelves are packed. If you weren't watching it on YouTube, you missed where Jason was talking from, which obviously was his office or his setting.
That was a very comic book guy setting.
Yes. Okay, we're going to the phones now, 713-440-8870. Tessa Tessa from the East End. Tessa, what's on your mind?
Well, I was just flabbergasted when Katharine shared her sugarcane juice because I'm also obsessed with a Bel Air beverage right now, which is from Sweet Suyatsu.
Ooh, tell us more.
So they're inside Nippon, the grocery store, and they just announced they're doing our Earl Grey matcha that I have to come and try. But I've tried their strawberry matcha, their regular matcha. A friend's tried their black sesame matcha. They also do like fresh baked goods that are like traditionally like Japanese styled, whether it's mochi or like different unique cheesecakes or crepe cakes. It's so good.
Ooh, Tessa, that sounds wonderful.
I've never had any matcha in Houston like theirs. Like, and they sell it too, so you can buy the canister. It's expensive now, of course, because of the tariffs and everything, but it's worth the price. For
and
sure.
we're having a matcha moment, so that really says a lot.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I've been trying matcha at a lot of different places in Bel Air, and I keep going back to Sweets because it's unmatched. And the folks who work there are really, really sweet and helpful too, like if you're not sure what to order. But just had to phone in to share about Sweets. And my other obsession, which is I'm just rewatching the show Search Party, and it's living in my brain 24/7.
That was a fantastic show. Apple TV, right?
I don't know. I think they started on TBS and then maybe Apple or HBO.
I might be thinking of a different
took
one.
over. Yeah, no, there's so many good, weird thriller mystery shows on Apple.
Well, Tessa, thank you very much for yours. I want to grab another call before we run out of time. Let's go to Bob from Meadow Place. Bob, what's on your mind?
Hey, I love criticizing commercials, and I focus on the flaws in all the TV commercials. For example, Liberty Mutual.
Yes.
Besides being sick of them, they always say, they act like they're the only commercial that lets you decide which coverage you want. And every insurance I've ever had, you decide whether you want towing and all that other stuff. But they act like they're the only ones that do it.
Bob, thank you for sharing that with us. And we are quickly running out of time. As already came up, my obsession is Eurovision. This Saturday, it'll finally play out. Maybe I'll still be bugging you all on Monday with the results, but then I promise I will put it away for another year.
For a year.
For a year, and then I guess you won't have to be surprised to find out what my last-minute plans are going to be tomorrow. Eurovision watch.
I wonder if it's Eurovision.
Anyway, everyone, thank you for joining us today and joining in the conversation and chatting with us and talking to us. A big thanks to the mayor for coming in and sitting with us for about an hour and taking your calls and questions. This wraps up Current Obsessions. Also for the week, you can keep sending those in to us all weekend long and into next week. Talk at hellohouston.org or call or text us 713-440-8870. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about food inspections with Houston Health Department Director Dr. Teresa Tran. That's going to be fascinating. Right here on Hello Houston. We'll see you tomorrow at 11. Thank you, Katharine.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bohlmann, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from the Houston Symphony, presenting its season finale with Mahler's Ninth Symphony. More than 100 musicians perform at Jones Hall to bring Mahler's final completed work to life. May 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. Tickets at houstonsymphony.org.
This is your NPR station, KUHF Houston News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. Stay with us. Here and Now is coming up next. It's now 1 o'clock.
Funding for Here and Now comes from MathWorks, maker of MATLAB and Simulink for
engineered systems. MathWorks, accelerating the pace of discovery in engineering and science.
From NPR and WBUR Boston, I'm Peter O'Dowd.
I'm Robin Young. It's Here and Now.
I'm Scott Tong in Beijing today. American journalist Melinda Liu moved here in 1980, and since then she has seen vast progress and yet still hundreds of millions in rural poverty.
Be careful not to have a misperception that this is all, dancing robots and things delivered by drones.